All right, everyone. Welcome to Tim Talks. I'm your host, Tim Choi, and you're probably wondering who the guy next to me is, and that is Kobe Kim, my one of my best friends. And this is an all new interview series that I wanted to launch. Actually, it was probably one of our first ideas, even before we started this YouTube channel. So I'm very excited to kind of get this interview launched off. And yeah, so hope you guys enjoy. But without further ado, let's go. So what up, Kobe? How you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, Tim? What up, Tim
Yeah.
fam?
So
Nice to meet you
yeah.
guys.
So I found it fitting that um having Kobe on as my first guest. One of many, and just a quick rundown. Kobe, he's in finance. He's probably going to talk a little bit about that in our interview. Um, Asian American, obviously. And yeah, we grew up together. So just a little bit of background: we grew up together, same church. I knew this kid since he was 11 years old, so it's a 20-year friendship, which is
We go way back, way
awesome.
back.
And
Calvary days.
yeah, but we're kind of getting up there in age. We're in our 30s. We'll just say that. I won't get into specifics,
Early 30s. Early 30s.
but definitely loving it. Definitely a whole new experience. Felt like 20s was
It is. Dude.
so long ago now. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think is the biggest difference being in your 30s as opposed to your 20s?
Oh man, good question. I only been 30 for for 2 years. So I'm 31
Mhm.
now, just
Mhm.
context wise. Going into 32 this month actually. So I don't know how that's gonna feel.
Aries.
But to answer your question, yeah, Aries, yeah. The smart ones. But to answer your question, the biggest difference between my 30s and my 20s, I think it's sleep.
Hmm.
So back in my 20s, I could just run off of like 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep. But nowadays, that
Yeah.
10:30 mark hits, I gotta go to bed. I gotta have my 8, 9 hours, even to function at work, even to even work out. So definitely sleep is a big
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
No.
What
No, for
about you?
sure. I mean, just to piggyback off of that, like, even if I like slept in on a weekend and I wake up, I'm still tired. Just
Yeah. And I know this is a kid friendly show, but alcohol,
hmm
the
oh, for
recovery
sure.
after a night of
Yeah.
drinking, very, very hard. It ain't what it used to be.
You
Yeah. Now I know why Korean aunties always say we gotta drink that soup. You know that hejang? We gotta do
no, yeah, for sure.
it. And I drink that sound. I know everybody could really, but I go like, ah, you know what I mean? After I drink a soup.
Spicy
So
hot soup.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely one
No,
of
I
those.
mean, I can tell you off the bat, me and Kobe definitely had a lot of drinking experiences in our 20s. Very ratchet, very fun, wild nights. And it would be like we could drink on a Thursday night. Friday would be ready to go, drink again, and then drink Saturday. But it's like nowadays, like we drink every so often, and even like one night of drinking, like it reverberates until the following weeks, and I feel it too. I'm just like, am I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
recovering?
yeah. I can only go one day. One
Yeah,
day. That's it. After that, I have to recover. It takes 2 days to
yeah.
recover. So yeah, it ain't what it used to be.
But
But I mean, honestly, I think I like being 30 in my 30s now more than being in my 20s. 20s was
uh-huh.
fun. Don't get me wrong. Like, that freedom. During the times of your 20s, you didn't really care about. You didn't have bills to pay. You didn't have to worry about like a house
Yeah.
payment, like utilities, a mortgage, car payment. No, you had your
Hmm.
parents. I mean, not everybody has like the privilege of having parents that pay for it. But I'm just saying, in my life, I didn't have any care. Like I didn't have to worry about like where my food came from or anything like that. All I thought about was just playing, hanging out with my
Hmm.
friends, and all that stuff. But definitely my 30s, that responsibility hit hard.
Yeah.
Like you gotta take care of like your parents, you gotta take care of your family, you gotta take care of your your career and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So definitely, yeah,
And yeah, obviously I'm in the same boat, and yeah, in my 30s, like every day, I'm like thinking about what's my next move, or it's like
yeah,
responsibilities, like paying bills, having to take care of parents, and I think one of the things that I have to kind of attribute to you is just I see my parents a lot differently too, and just like
yeah,
um I think with our talks that we've had in our teens and in our 20s, like you kind of ingrained in me just having that special relationship with your parents, and just having that gratitude for them, and just like they're not getting any younger, and like I think I'm starting to
I
see,
agree.
like when you're younger, you see your parents as like immortal, as like they're going to live forever, but it's not the case. We're already in our
Yeah, yeah,
30s. We can tell that they're a lot older than what they were when we're kids, and like I want to be at that age where I can take care of them financially, whatever they want.
of
They
course.
need
Yeah,
anything. So just like I feel more responsible now.
yeah.
I Whereas in my 20s, like what you said, it's like it was a little bit more carefree. Like you didn't really have to worry about bills. Like your biggest worry was about your next college exam or whatever, whatnot. And then just
Yeah.
um, I like it. I mean, being in your 30s, like I like it. It's like more of like a you know who you are, and you're comfortable in your skin. You know, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
Um,
I think in my 30s, like piggybacking off what you just said, I'm in my 20s is all about getting to know who you like,
yeah,
who you are. Do I like this? Do I like that? Do I even like to, what are my things to do on a weekend, like on my leisure time? Do I, what type of relationship do you want to be in? I think 20s is more of an exploratory where you're an adventurer. You're more of a thing where you're trying to find out life. But in your 30s, when 20s you were kind of a dreamer trying to figure out things. 30s is where you literally have to plan everything. Now you have to, hit the ground running. You have to start living your
yeah,
life. You can't put it back. You can't procrastinate. You just gotta live
yeah.
your life. And in your 30s, I feel like you kind of know, you know, what you
Mm,
want. Your thing. Like, oh, I like to on the weekends. I like to play golf,
right.
for instance, or I like to hang out with these certain friends. One of the things that you actually told me was in our talks was in your 30s you kind of realize like one of the most important things in a relationship, any kind of
Right.
relationship, is
Yeah.
comfort,
Yeah.
right? And that hit hard, that hit big, and I was like, wow, that's true. Because in the 20s, I used to hang out with like anybody, anybody that I could just like that comes, in my vicinity. I'm like, hey, let's meet up, let's hang out. But now it's more about is this person make me feel comfortable, or do I make that person comfortable? Do I have to try,
Mhm.
or can I just be myself and they accept me for who I am and I'm just comfortable
Mhm.
around them? And I think that's a big, big thing that I learned, going into 30.
Yeah. I mean, like, just it comforts. It's a big thing because all of us, you and I, we have a 9 to 5, like, and when it's after work, we work out, or we have our own errands that we have to run after work, and we look forward to the weekend. It's like not that we're not capable. It's just like the stamina is just different. It's just like you start to value the people that you're close with, and it's like I know who I'm closest with in terms of my group of friends, because it's not like when I meet with them the second time, or whichever time, I have to kind of like put in my effort to kind of catch up with them. It's like, oh, we're just pressing play again, and we're picking up where we left off, and I think that's one
Yeah,
of my biggest blessings with you, actually, because I think in our 20s there was like a period of time when you were doing your thing, I was doing my thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then it was just like a random day when we were like at Applebee's, and it was just
yeah.
like
I remember that.
and then for me it's like like it's awesome, like to have friends like that, and just like and in your 30s, it's just you value those people more in your lives, like with you,
Yeah.
Bowden, my partner for YouTube, and yeah, just like it's awesome. But I wanna ask you this question.
No, but just to comment on that, like I said, in your 20s, you try to meet as much as like as many as many people as you
Hmm.
want to, right? Especially during college and like you go to a night out, you try to hang out with random strangers. But it's funny because now I tend to come back to the median, like to the close group of friends that I grew
Hmm.
up with. It's weird. Like back then, I wanted to meet like new people. Right now, I can't wait to just hang out with people that I had a relationship with already, where I established. Like you said, Jew, Jay, like and Baldwin, for instance. We've known each other for what, eight, almost going into like 18
Right.
years, right? And it's just that to me back then was like, it is what it is. Childhood friends. But now that is something special
Yeah.
where not everybody has that. Not everybody has a friendship that goes even
Yeah.
5 years now, especially in a world we live in today where everything is just more of like, 5 year at most, not even 5 years, like a year, and then everybody just gets
Right.
bored of it. You know what I mean? And to have a relationship with a group of people for this long, I think it's something to be valued, something to be treasured, and yeah, like you said, it's awesome. It's a blessing,
And
you
you
know.
and you know what I realized, just like in your 20s, your teens, your 20s, you're trying to impress people. You're always trying to impress people. You're always trying to be like, hey, like me, I'm funny. I know
Yeah,
all these stories. I know sports. I know politics. I know this and that. Like, let me explore. Let me, meet new people, mingle, meet new friends, and that's all. That's all fun, and we definitely had our fun nights in the city or in Bergen or for whatever whatnot. But I think in your 30s, it's like
yeah.
um the main thing between like the main common trait between my friends is that we're unconditional for each other, and it's like it means a lot. It's definitely a blessing, because it's like us as guys, we're bound to make mistakes, we're bound to mess up, and
We're
yeah,
human.
but
Yeah,
it's just cool that you have a group of people that believe in you, and you need that, especially in our stage in our lives. Like, your work can be stressful, we're trying to pursue this endeavor, and it's awesome just to kind of have a support group that's like, hey, listen, bro, like, you got this. And it honestly, it helps me like miles on end, and it's just it's awesome. And thank you for being one of those people, one of those main people in that group,
yeah, no
for
problem.
sure.
Same, likewise, likewise.
And
Yeah. And also another thing is, staying on this topic with those kind of relationships, I feel like in the beginning, and you and I had quarrels, we had fights because in the beginning, I tried to mold you to become a friend that I wanted you
mhm,
to be. That friend that I wanted you to, like, oh, we gotta have similarities. We gotta have the same work ethic. We gotta have the same like goals. We want to be both successful. Like, yeah, that's all great and all, but I think where I kind of where I learned, where I became humbled was when I realized, listen, a relationship isn't about changing other
mhm.
people, but accepting those individuals for who they are, and while accepting and just growing that relationship
Right.
together. Like I think you and I became really, really close. Of course, we had our ups and downs. We're humans. We fight and all that stuff, even with the other guys. But where I think we kind of evolved, where we became from just friends to like brothers, going into like 19 years, is where we accepted each other for who we are.
Mhm,
And then once we accepted who we are, I think we started to just embrace
mhm.
each other. Embrace not only our good things but our bad things as well. But it just we're not judging each other for our
Yeah.
bad things or for our flaws. We're just, it is who we are. We're humans. We all have flaws. We all make mistakes, but as friends, we just accept. Obviously, I'm gonna call out on your. Are we allowed to curse on
Yeah.
this?
No, why not?
But you're
Yeah.
crap. But I'm gonna call you out. You're gonna call me out. But we accept. We accept.
Yeah. Yeah, but you have something to say, Bell? Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, what do you call it? That's definitely like, I don't take that for granted. But yeah, just I remember I told you this thing that I did like a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, when I was like, um I wrote, I don't know if I was bored, but it was just something that I was inspired by, actually from that hit show from How I Met Your Mother. Um and it was just like
Great show, by the
I was
way.
writing a letter to my 40-year-old self, right? And I wanted to ask you, like, us being in our 30s, in our early 30s, like, if you could, just going off of that, if you could give advice to your 20-year-old self as of right now, what advice would you give that 20 some odd year old Kobe?
Good
Yeah.
question. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is relax. Uh, like, don't be so tunnel vision. So back in my 20s, like, I was just so tunnel vision. I was just all about, yeah, I played and like I was all about drinking and stuff and partying, but I also was very tunnel vision into one thing, very goal oriented. Like I was just so specific on that
Yeah.
one thing that I didn't enjoy the journey itself. I didn't enjoy things around me. I just didn't care. I'm very impatient. So my personality is I'm super impatient. So I want things done like
Mm-hmm.
quickly. Like I'm the type of guy. If we're on Netflix, I will skip.
Yeah.
That 10-second bite. I skip. Like I can't wait for the story to develop. I just want to get to the ending. Like I'm that type of person. And I in the 20s, it was very very it was big. It was very like that, and it was worse than now. And I think one of the things that I want to tell my younger self is just to relax. Yeah, you should be goal oriented. You should be working and having that work ethic. But I think part of me wants me to the younger self to be more relaxed and saying, "Hey, listen, everything works out.
Yeah.
Everything will work out, but just don't be so focused on your goal where you forget to see the things around you and you miss out on those things." Because I feel like because I was so tunnel visioned and so focused on achieving a goal in mind that I felt like there were better opportunities, but I missed out on it because I was so hell bent on
Yeah.
one thing. And I feel that's very, very, that's very. It's not efficient way to live. It's not. It's not. It's not that it's efficient, but it's just. I think it's just a very like not an ideal way to
Mm.
live. I feel like there will be other things in life that might have not you might have enjoyed more, but because you're so tunnel vision that you forget those things. You don't see it, and I think that's what I want to tell my
Mm.
20-year-old
That
self.
that's
What about
awesome.
you? What would you say?
I think just like, I don't know, just like as you know, I'm a very introspective person, and I'm always kind of just thinking about, my internal state and things like that. Like, um, I would just say, like, in my 20s, because I could still recall like being my 20-year-old version of myself. Because I feel like you never lose that version of yourself. It's like it's always in you. You're just layering up. In your 30s, it's your 30-year-old suit that you're wearing, and then in your 20s, it's just kind of like don't. I would tell them, like, don't be afraid. Like, don't be afraid to try different things, and don't be afraid to explore, not just with drinking, but just like explore your pursuits. And because I think I just remember being in my 20s, and even now, I think that's just something that I'm kind of developing now, just like that fear of failure. And I talked about it in my previous YouTube episodes, but it's just like,
Well, check it out.
thanks, yeah, check it out. But but it's just like,
Seriously,
you
check it
know,
out.
it was like, it was crippling, and it was like to the point where it was just like I just wouldn't act, and it was just like, let me just brush it off, move on to the next thing, or just not do anything at all. And I think just like one thing that I would tell my 20-year-old self is like, hey, listen, like, just because you're scared of it, just because you might, there's a probability of you failing, big or small, go for it. As in your 20s, like, you can mess up all you want. And at the same time, it's not that there are no repercussions, but at the same time, it's less pressure than you are in your 30s. I feel like, because, like, I know we keep going back and forth with this, but like, in your 20s, you're allowed to fuck up. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to kind of like, you have that bandwidth to make those mistakes. But in your 30s, it's kind of like, there's kind of like reverberating repercussions, and it you feel the effects more. Because I mean, like, I think with me,
Yeah,
like,
you feel it.
I feel it definitely a lot more. I definitely feel anxiety in a different way, stresses in a different way, but it's just more so, it's more serious now being in my 30s. Whereas in my 20s, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt that, but it was just yeah, just, I think my advice would just be like, hey, like, in your 20s, and whoever's watching this episode, like, don't be afraid to just try new things, and I'm not saying in our 30s we're done, we're settled, but it's just like, hey, 20s is a chance to have fun, and whatever you guys want to pursue, it's like, go for it. If you want to be a musician, pick up that guitar, pick up that mic, sing that song. If you want to be go into sports, like, practice basketball every day, whatever it is that you want to pursue in your life, go for it. And I'm just like very grateful that I'm on this YouTube journey with my brothers, with you, with Fallon, and I'm finally living my dream that I want to get accomplished, and it's awesome, yeah. But I think that's a good segue.
Let's stay on that topic
Huh?
then. Let's stay on that topic because I was always so before your YouTube to your one of your first episodes, you talked about fear, right? You talked about
Yeah,
all that. Kind of wanna I always had this question about it. So let's say you know how you just said, go for that. You want to pick up a guitar, you want to be a guitarist, you want to be a singer, you want to go for that girl that you had a crush on and you never had the balls to say
yeah.
anything, right? Obviously fear is not only in your 20s but it's also it's present now. I still have fear. I still have, like, let's say I have a big meeting that I have to pitch to a client and I have to close. That fear is still there, right? In your if you wanted to give an advice to a 20-year old, like, not just you but somebody else about fear, how to overcome that. How you just said, hey, go for that dream or that goal that you had, but there's that fear, right? How do you what steps does that person have to take, or what do you recommend that person to overcome that fear to actually do it?
Mm.
Because that fear is going to be always present. It's still going to be there, you know
I think just that is definitely an amazing question, and just like, I I mean, first off, I just want to say I'm fascinated by fear itself, because I when I look at fear, it's not a positive or a negative entity. It's I feel like it's a necessity for us as humans. And for me, it's just you know what I would tell the 20-year-old people: hey, the world is, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, the world is scary. Let's just put it as that. But I feel as though it can get less scary when you break it down. And it's like, when you don't, like, obviously, if you have a big goal, you want to go into finance, you want to go into the NBA, you want to go into this and that. You got to be able to, like, yeah. And if you think about it as a whole, it can be overwhelming. I felt it before, because in my 20s, like, I wanted to be a singer, but then I had that fear, like, one night, and I was actually like, I had like a nightmare, and I was like, oh, can I actually do this? And I just wound up not doing it. But at the same time, like, um, if I have a big goal of mine, and and if it's scary, it's a good goal. It's a great goal. Break it down.
I agree with that.
Um, don't not act, but break it down to little things. Like, if you want to go into NBA, spend those certain hours in the gym every single day. Shoot the foul shots, shoot the 3 pointer, run your suicides, like train your body. If you want to be a musician, like, are you practicing every day? Are you, in the studio? Like, I would say break it down to day by day things. And it's like, hey, like, understand that fear is something that can be overcome, and it's something that you realize is not as big as what it seems. And a lot of times in
100%
my
agree.
life I felt like, oh shoot, like I'm in this bad situation, and it sucks, and it's bigger than what it is, and it's like a hard situation to get out of, or to kind of overstep that hurdle. But then when you look back, like after after you overcome that, or you come up with the solution, you look back, you realize it's smaller than what it was. And the biggest testament that I feel like for us as humans is that we wake up the next day and we have precious opportunity to either continue to work on that problem or continue to work on our fears. And I think us being able to wake up every day is a blessing of itself, and it should remind us as humans, like, hey, listen, like, um we have a whole life to figure this shit out. We have a whole life to figure this shit out. It shouldn't be that scary, because if we're looking at the bigger picture, like, fear is going to help structure us in the right way. And I think you and I can both look at certain accounts in our lives where we were so fearful at this time. And I have a situation that you had in mind, but it was just like, it was huge back then. It was so stressful. We wanted to, like, rip out our hair and stuff, but then you look back on it, and it's like, wow, I overcame that. And you're a stronger person for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think, like, biggest example, I mean, right now the current example would be YouTube. It's like, oh, I would be like wrestling back and forth, very fearful, very hesitant. Oh, are people going to like this? And I still think about that here and there, but it's like, when we publish an episode on this channel, it's like, it's the fear is less of what it was. It's like, oh, why was I fearful in the first place? I already shot the video, and it's published, and it's out in the open, and people commented, people, whatever, whatnot, and that fear is small of its own. But um, yeah. Uh, and actually, I just wanted to, I wanted to talk. Do you have any instances where you felt like in your 20s or even your 30s that you felt like a situation was bigger than what it was, and how you kind of just overcame that? Because for me, I'm thinking about, and I don't know if you want to share this, but I'm thinking about that story. When you were about to get that job. I don't know. For me, like, I love your story, and you don't have to share if you don't want to, but I love your story of how you came from Chase to where you are now. Like, I love that story, and I don't know if you want to share a little bit about your journey or your process with that.